Hey, this is the Nature Boy Rick Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the king of podcasts radio network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Welcome to the Wrestling is Real podcast, episode 841. And I'll tell you one thing, you can enjoy wrestling a whole lot better without watching social media, or even pretty much really following a lot of people that are just online that are able to go and have their own comments. There's a thing to be said about my fellow podcast wrestling brethren, the commentators that are out there that cover wrestling on a regular basis. Okay, many of us, yes, we're very much amateurs. You know, podcasting, Twitch streaming, social media posting, all these different areas that all of us can have our voices heard or written or seen, right? We have to remember that some of the people that we listen to or watch, unless they were in the business, yeah, how informative, how educated, how intuitive are you to understand business? Because many don't. Social media, you can't really take it seriously. And I'm one of the fans that have been around long enough. Not the fact that social media is out there and, you know, I knew what life was like before social media. What I'm saying is that I also know how to treat social media. I mean, for me, it goes back to 2006. It was 2007, I think, officially that Twitter and Facebook, I both started jumping on. You know, you realize it's a public platform. And you know what? Whatever you say or do, now these days can be held against you. And people can criticize you and, you know, get pissed off of what you say. There was somebody that commented on one of my videos a while back where I put a video out years ago. One of the earliest videos I did that went to my YouTube channel. It was a YouTube exclusive on the Wrestling is Real podcast. And my comments were about where I said why the WWE Attitude Era is never coming back. Okay. And I did get a comment that said, oh, this aged well. Once it's on Netflix, it's on. Okay. And trust me, I've been getting the hate right now pretty regularly. I had one that was from last week when I wrote about CM Punk caught on tape or the AEW effect on WrestleMania, which was last week's episode. I got a comment from One Smooth One who writes, "You have no comments because you're not being honest about the Punk incident. Bye. No support for me if you can't be honest. Lame dork." Okay. And that is the crux of the kind of social media commentary I expect out there, because the perception that I'm an AEW loyalist and I'm not a fan of WWE or whatever, that I'm supposed to be like pigeonholed into one category or another. Yeah, I'm not playing that. I don't care. And we should all start realizing that the reason why the Attitude Era is never coming back is because the Attitude Era never really had the internet or social media to deal with. Vince McMahon might have been out of touch on a few things when it comes to his creative, his direction. But the smartest thing he could have ever done was never buy into social media and never buy in to the fans that are, oh, wait for it, the vocal minority. You do realize the amount of people that are online talking regularly about wrestling. And this goes along with, besides those that have been doing journalism for a long time, the Jason Powells, the Wade Kellers, Dave Meltzer's, Brian Alvarez's, all those. Among the others that I know that, you know, listen to live audio wrestling folks with Pollock and Wei Ting and Brandon Thurston and, you know, And some of the others that we've heard in the last few years that, YouTube is their home. Twitch is their home. They're the ones that get all riled up when there's some kind of live thing that happens and they catch your live reaction. They don't speak for the fans. And for those fans that show up at the events, some of them probably fall along with those people. And nothing wrong with you doing that. But if you're just going to go ahead and follow the opinions and thoughts of everyone else out there, then you know what? You can't watch anything else but WWE. Because trying to apply your logic based on what you know that WWE gives you on a regular basis, whether it was Vince for all these years or Triple H now, it still holds true. The vocal minority wants what they want. When they don't get it, they sit in their pram and they whine, bitch, moan, and complain. I whine, bitch, moan, and complain on this program about the wrestling content all the time. And people have been all talking about that. Oh, 2019, we used to, complain so much about WWE because, this and that. And AEW was such a big deal. And now it's all turned around. Because Tony Khan doesn't want to do what you want him to do? Huh? Oh, so Tony Khan shouldn't be, defending himself when the WWE says something? Really? You're worried about that? Social media. I'm actually kind of glad. Now, Tony Khan probably gets himself kind of caught in the bait of what is social media and what the other people say out there about him. The CM Punk incident, the All in London incident. Now, I'm a little behind on having to bring this up again, but I just have to I'm not going to go ahead and relitigate this once again. But we did get some commentary in the last week as to some of the people that were part of it, that were pointed out. Young Bucks, Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone. So we heard from them. I'm going to go ahead and take what they said. Let's just go into that first. And go into that first of all. So we start off first with Tony Khan. He was on the Chris Russell podcast. He says, quote, it made a lot of sense to air the altercation footage with CM Punk and Jack Perry from All In 2023. And this is what he said. I'm going to quote. This is from WrestleMania.com that gives me the transcript here. Quote, well, I think it made a lot of sense. First of all, FTR versus Young Bucks ladder match coming out of AEW Dynasty for the World Tag Team Championships. The fourth chapter in FTR versus Young Bucks. The last time they wrestled Young Bucks FTR 3 was at Wembley Stadium, AEW All In. And a lot happened that day. They were the third match on the pay-per-view, and at one point it looked like they were going to have them call them up, and they were going to have them wrestle the first match. And then they ended up going on in the spot they were in, but the Young Bucks said the whole day, everything that happened, it really affected their mental preparation. They weren't able to pray before the match. They were very stressed out. They slipped on the banana peel, and they lost the match, but they blame FTR. They blame what happened at Wembley Stadium, and that's why, in hindsight, that's why they refused to shake FTR's hand. By the way, this is also quoting from the source of F4W Law Online. He also says that Jack Perry got the reaction of a superstar from the fans at New Japan's Windy City Riot pay-per-view last Friday, where Jon Moxley became IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Quote, it was fascinating to see that after the tape played, the reaction that Jack Perry got at New Japan last week, he got the reaction of a superstar. That is not altogether unexpected, and it's something very interesting, perhaps a side effect of this. Jack Perry is already a big star in wrestling. Really, the way the crowd connected with him in Chicago, that was interesting to see. Now let's hear from Young Bucks. They also commented about this. WrestlingNews.co, Andrew Ravens writes this. Nick and Matt Jackson spoke with Sports Illustrated. Quote, since we are wrestling FTR at Dynasty, and with it being the first time since doing it since All in London, so many feelings and thoughts came rushing back. Old wounds were reopened. We decided it was only fair to be transparent and honest with our fans. We needed to give them context about why we feel we came up short at All in London. Our bodies were in the wrestling FTR at Wembley, but our minds were in the back with a scapegoat in the entire situation, Jack Perry. The three of us specifically were wrong that night, and I haven't gotten over that. As EVPs, we were given a task that for that week by the boss, and we did the best of our abilities. Zero regret. Everyone is following storyline. But everyone outside of the spectrum of AEW, they have to go ahead and comment about CM Punk. But his name was not mentioned. He was not pointed out in the video. But everybody wants to shit on this company for that. Oh, and the blanket comment by Will Ospreay about Triple H. Meanwhile, Triple H talked about the grind before WrestleMania. Right? Talk about the grind. 300 dates a year. I don't know if it's deviated much from that. But this is the part where Will Ospreay makes this point, and now people might not want to pay attention to this. But now we have Rhea Ripley getting hurt. Fluke accident. But after the wear and tear that the young lady has been going through right now, defending that women's world title, 418 days. And just like that, a chance moment that her shoulder gets separated in an altercation, a staged altercation, to get Liv Morgan back into the picture now to create the new focus of a feud for Rhea Ripley after winning over Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Oh. To the point that Rhea Ripley legitimately had to vacate the title. Out, I guess I read, 5 to 6 weeks? And this is where Triple H and the team, what's your plan here? When you're relying on so many people on this roster, I don't bring this up enough, but for years I talked about the fact that why we needed more people in that main event is because of the injuries. How many times have we seen certain stars get injured? I mean, Seth Rollins, we're lucky to even see him stand with the World Heavyweight title in his hand all this time. And by the way, the fact that Roman Reigns, defended the title, 32 times, I think it was, and was in limited capacity working every month to be able to hold the title for 3.5 years, 3 years, 7 months. And I think there were points he was injured, but they were able to go and hold on to him, and he was able to sustain a long run as champion. Going through the same way. You got to be really durable to be champion and be able to hold on for that long a time. But preparing for things like this, plan Bs, having other wrestlers at the ready. Who do they have ready after Rhea Ripley to be the Women's World Champion? Legitimately. Who's been built up to that? Don't give me the whole thing about, we have plenty of stars. Yeah, of course you do. But they need to be built up. Give them the win records. Give them the dominance that they have. What makes them qualify as a contender if they would have been put up against Rhea Ripley in the first place? Well, we didn't get that part. We didn't get any of that. Which is why we need more people to be up there at the top. And, with some of the veteran wrestlers, they're probably a little bit better at holding on to themselves and making sure that they're not going to get hurt. And, the way they take care of themselves could be a different story. Or that they've gotten injured plenty of times before. And they can still kind of, they've recovered. Still able to go. But we go on with this here. And right now, the company can do no wrong. Listen, what is it? 19 sellouts they're going to have now with SmackDown or Raw. The ratings were fine, 1.8 million viewers. It's what they're going to get. That's about as good as they're going to get because of the erosion of the audience that they have. They're not going to build that back up. And so for one of their shows to go to Netflix, that they're not going to have to worry about ratings or anything like that. That's the one thing I'll tell you, man. Wait till Netflix goes in and takes that show. We don't know what night they're going to put it on. We don't even know if people are going to be watching it regularly live anyway. We don't know what they're going to do. But what we do know is with Raw, we're not going to hear about ratings anymore. We're only hear about it with SmackDown. And then AEW is going to be left with ratings. And that's all we're going to hear about. But overall, you think about the roster that AEW has, so many different people, and they're not working that full grind, as Triple H says. Well, Triple H, even you working the grind, you got hurt plenty of times. And how many other stars have gotten hurt plenty of times as well? Something always else comes up. And, you never know what else will come down the line, especially the women, as to, how long they'll stay around. You tell me at some point, Rhea Ripley, when she comes back from injury, you're telling me, listen, she's getting up there in age to the point where, she might want to become a mother. And she's married. And who's to say she doesn't want to go ahead and sit down and raise, take time to go ahead and have a baby, have a family. Do what Becky Lynch did. Because that could very well be happening pretty soon. But, it's like you put yourself here, Triple H's new era. You're going to encompass it with the fact that, okay, we are praising what? When we talk about Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable, we noticed the talk about, the Chad Gable heel turn at the end. We kind of expected that coming out of it. We did not think it was not going to happen. We kind of figured that was what was going to happen anyway. It went until after WrestleMania. Until after Sami Zayn won the title. They go through the title match that Chad Gable was promised, and he lost. And we're all impressed, or I guess many of us are impressed by Sami Zayn's entrance. Because after Jey Uso beat JD McDonough, we just transitioned from Jey Uso going from the ring to backstage, talks to Sami Zayn, quick little moment, and then Sami Zayn walks all the way in to Montreal to the arena. Yeah, it's a cool moment. It's a one shot. What is that doing for Sami Zayn in general? Nothing much. Man of Montreal. Okay, for one night. Might look good, in a documentary sometime. But we're trying to go and build up the fact that Sami Zayn, are we just going to make him just this white meat baby face that's just like after all this time, crawled his way to get to this spot? Like the do good, feel good story? Are we just going to stick with that? Is that what Sami Zayn's going to be for us as the Intercontinental Champion? Is that all it's going to be? After all this time with Sami Zayn, so much has been stripped of everything in him. I mean, all the things that were part of any gimmick that he had. For the bulk of his career, he had a gimmick. Had the mask on. And now Sami Zayn is just like plain. He's basic. Nothing about the bloodline. Nothing about him being quirky. That's all gone. It's like it's all been phased out of him. Now he is just basic. How many other stars do we have that are under Triple H's reign that are just basic? Basic is what we see in the indies. Basic is what we see in every other promotion. Just about. The reason why we see certain stars in the independents as they are, we never really see them with like really full thought of gimmicks because they're never in one place at all times. Except for some that are under contract going to have time for things, right? So that's where you see like a Toni Storm, when she was in NXT and more or less kept the same way on the main roster, she was kept basic. She goes over to AEW, gets later attached to the Outcasts, but then fully fleshed storyline, she becomes timeless. And this character, now she goes in as women's world champion, going into Dynasty with this weekend. We're going to talk about Dynasty, by the way. Don't forget about that. Like that was what I was going to talk about to start off, but yeah, I can't because I got to go through this social media cesspool that we got on a regular basis, and all the internet stuff that goes along with it. Like, it's already bad enough that if I go on social media sometimes, the echo chamber in there is real. Now, I will just say this. I don't give a shit about politics. Maybe there was a time I really cared about it, like a spectator sport, and I listened to radio and listened to TV and watch the news. I don't do that anymore. I feel dumber the more I read news. I feel dumber the more I watch. No, especially when I watch anything that's, if you put me on a cable channel or any network news, whatever there is, you put that on TV, I feel dumber every second I watch. So the quicker I can get away from it, the better. And the worst part is, we don't have anything that's objectivity, where we hear from all different perspectives. No, we have echo chambers everywhere. Wrestling is like that now. And I don't want that in my wrestling. We have echo chambers where, as I call it, the bubble, and I'm not taking that first. It was Vince Russo that said it. The bubble. Remember, we used to talk about that. Vince Russo's the one that had about the WWE bubble. And there's things being outside of wrestling. Right. But of the stars they want to go ahead and build up, except for the ones that have been around and have been existing and have been established, you just don't want to keep certain stars basic. Basic gimmicks work everywhere else. In WWE, we can't expect that. And I don't think people really understand what I'm saying by that. When I look at some of the stars that I saw on Raw this week, just alone, let me just give some of the names that we saw on Raw this past Monday night. Besides Rhea Ripley, besides Liv Morgan, right? Like even Liv Morgan, they're completely making her basic. They're fleshing out all the other things that she used to do to herself, her look. Now, I mean, we've seen what they did with her, basically the direction they took to her after winning the SmackDown Women's title over Ronda Rousey. And she's kind of stuck in that direction. But like they've stripped down everything that was about her, where she liked to go and change her hair color to her tongue and all this other stuff that she did. All that's been fleshed out. Nothing against, because she's an attractive girl. We all like her, but she's got a basic gimmick now. Not much else. Sheamus, we took him back and put him back against in the his original gimmick, the fella gimmick. So let's just blow up the Brawling Brutes. All right. And what do you come up with? You put Pete Dunne with somebody else that's, European, create the new catch, whatever it is. And then Ridge Holland is nowhere to be found. So Sheamus with Ridge Holland, because you would think that Sheamus would help give a rub onto Ridge Holland. Well, no. Ridge Holland's now NXT. I guess they're going to try to find something new for him. Plus, he's probably being punished for the fact he basically did hurt Big E in the process, right? And Big E's never coming back because the neck injury is too severe for him to ever come back. So even the thought that Big E might come back and be part of the New Day, no. Permanently on the shelf. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But even he was a basic gimmick. Just saying it as it is. You're feeling a lot of stories that are no character driven, nothing. Austin Theory, Grayson Waller. You strip down everything of them. Basic. Basic. They do the trolling on social media that kind of makes them a little bit different, but it's basic. It's generic. It's kind of just there. Dominic Mysterio with a fully fleshed storyline. We already know about him and the build-up of him. And him and Andrade. And Andrade comes back in here and he's like, with Andrade, it was like, okay, La Facción Ingobernable. He was like the mob boss over there. He was like, the cartel guy. Kind of just had a different feel with him over there in AEW. Now he's here. There's nothing about, no El Idolo, no nothing. It's just Andrade. And still has the mask, but it's like, okay, that's it. Finn Balor, without the attention to Judgment Day, he's basic. No demon. No, not even an attachment to the demon anymore. It's all gone. But that was an NXT change, where Finn Balor was just basic. No longer relying on the demon. We don't even hear about it anymore. Not even talked about. The Prince Devitt character we all remember, gone. Nobody talks about it. Because he has to work so much, he can't put on the makeup and all that and create the character. Can't be done. Maybe somewhere down the line they'll bring it back, but they're not. Cody Rhodes, fully fleshed out. We know the whole history of him and the legacy and his family and all. That's it. Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. One person with a gimmick. One. Everyone else, basic. But the audience here, the social media vocal minority, they're happy with this. You're happy with this now. Short term, sure. Oh, everything's going so well on all cylinders, okay? WrestleMania, that hangover, the excitement of that continues to kind of hold on and hold close to everybody out here. Watching wrestling, the draft is going to get people excited. But I'm telling you, it's going to come down a bit. Roman Reigns is taking some time off. Hell, he's got a movie coming up. I could have told you that was coming. I could have told you that's heading up pretty soon. It was not too long after that we're going to see Roman Reigns heading out and working. So the story is that Roman Reigns is going to be working with the likes of Keanu Reeves and Seth Rogen. He's going to be in a new action comedy film that's going to be produced. Movie's called Good Fortune. Sandra Oh's also going to be in the cast. It'll be directed by Aziz Ansari. And nothing else we know about the plot, but he's going to get to start working on that. We'll hear about principal photography, all that good stuff, see when everything starts. But with this, Roman Reigns, if the movie goes well, we're not going to see much of him for a while. The plan for the bloodline, they put into play. Okay. Tama Tonga joins the crew. Okay. And now him and Solo Sikoa, we have a mutiny, it looks like, in the bloodline. And with Roman Reigns being out of pocket, we don't know what's happening here, but Jimmy Uso's out. Do the Usos reunite? I don't know. Or, I mean, was Jimmy and Jay just going to go along their own solo ways? I guess so. But now, we know that Tama Tonga now joins the crew. There's got to be an explanation for that. Jacob Fatu has been signed. I think it's eventually we're going to see Jacob Fatu enter the bloodline and a new faction, a new entity was going to come out of the bloodline, and we're going to get some kind of a split. But we don't know if it's Roman Reigns as part of it or what. But like I said, if I see Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu or Tama Tonga and all them together, yeah, I'm all excited about that. Like, you got me right there. That storyline is set. Because that's all attached to bloodline. And, you know, pretty simple to kind of explain everything. Because they're all attached to the Samoan family, so bloodline is in. And they made the point that it's the son of Haku. You are attaching something very simple to make Tama Tonga be brought into the mix. Wonderful. Love it. Now, the other name I didn't bring up yet about the whole incident was Tony Schiavone, because he also responded about this as well. His viral reaction on AEW. He was on his What Happened When podcast. He says he was just acting. Quote, people could take screenshots and assume anything from a screenshot. My facial reaction to what happened was my facial reaction to try to put more heat on the Bucks for being assholes within the storyline themselves. I did not have any reaction to footage we've seen because I don't give a damn. And Conrad Thompson has clarified this wasn't Tony's first time seeing the footage. And he says, no, that's right. So what? So fucking what? So I was not upset at the promotion. I was not upset at Tony Khan. I was not pissed off at what we had shown. I was trying to fully be in the moment of the angle, which is the Bucks bitching about FTR, not wanting to shake their hands about getting fucked around and everything. That was what I was doing. And he reiterated about how little he cares about the footage in general, has some choice words for anyone claiming that last week was WCW-esque, the start of AEW's demise. Tony Schiavone, if anybody is allowed to go ahead and speak about this, it's Tony Schiavone. Okay. Thank you for this. Tony, you know, again, I respect the man. I know everybody thinks Michael Cole's one of the best announcers ever. Yes, he is. But I have other favorites, okay? I've always been a Tony Schiavone fan. Always been a Jim Ross fan. Always been a Gordon Soley fan. Lance Russell was great. All right. Bill Mercer was great. Joey Styles was great. Come on. Just saying. Mike Tenay was great. There's a lot of great announcers. I'm not going to pick one over the other. I'm not. If you made me pick ring announcers, that'd be a different story. Like, I mean, listen, Samantha Irwin, she's our Lillian Garcia. Probably another step up. I don't know. But she gives me the Lillian Garcia kind of feel. Because she really is. I mean, she's great. Great. You can say about Howard Finkel, sure. For me, the announcer I'm always going to like, and you've heard me say this before, Gary Michael Capetta, the world's most dangerous announcer, is still one of my favorites. And honestly, I always like David Penzer. I always notice myself, imitating them as well. But that's just me. Tony Schiavone continues on and says, but of course, everyone wants to create their own story, and that's fine. That's what social media is about. Thank you. And this is back to my point. Social media is about idiots coming together and trying to come up with their own ideas. Maybe I was still upset about Bug, Schiavone's dog who died recently. I don't know, but I didn't give a shit about the footage and still don't. I'm sincere when I say I don't care. I don't care. It has no impact on my life. Some people were saying, oh, the footage is what you were showing was like the finger poke of doom moment for AEW. Well, you know what? That's what you want it to be because you want to see us fail. And there's no way, because I was in both companies, there's absolutely no way you can compare us to WCW. You can't. You may want to. You may think you're right. You're wrong. You cannot compare us to WCW. I was there for both. You were not. I believe him. It's not because Tony Khan's giving him a paycheck. It's not. And the biggest thing is that the underlying reason why everybody's doing this right now, social media, the vocal minority, right? They all want to shit on AEW because their pay-per-view is coming up. They don't want anything to go ahead and, diminish what WrestleMania was. Because, by the way, they're not talking about Revolution. There should be a Rebellion this weekend from TNA. They're not even talking about that. But TNA's got a pay-per-view due this weekend. One of their big ones. They're not saying a word about it. They're not saying a word. Because AEW, they want to call it a threat. And I don't. People want to go and complain about their ratings. For what? The vocal minority, the social media group out there. And, if I decide to start calling names out, which I said I would stop doing, if I start calling names out now, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to get roasted by their fans. And I don't need any of that. I don't need the headache. I don't need to even read about that. But the fans out there want to go ahead and take shots at AEW because they want to live the Attitude Era. And part of the Attitude Era was to shit on WCW. You want to compare it? You weren't there 25 plus years ago. WCW does get their criticisms, and duly so. And everybody wants to complain about Tony Khan's creative direction. Okay. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying anything that's wrong about doing it. But I know what you're trying to say. I disagree with you. I will continue to disagree with you. Because you can't help yourselves. You have to feel like, oh, all these stars that you wish were in WWE, right? This is part of the reason why people are upset. Because there's a lot of stars. Because the stars that they want all of them to be in WWE, right? Mercedes Moné, they want Sasha Banks back in the worst way. But as long as AEW's around paying her, she can't be there. The fact they didn't get Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, right? They didn't get them. They're crying in the pram. Wah. Oh, we can't get these people. Now you're upset. And then MJF, wah, we can't get him. You want him over there so badly. And the thing is that, why is it that people are always so caught up in like, let's get any of the other stars? What's wrong with the stars you got in WWE right now? Isn't that a great roster you got? Isn't that a wonderful roster? Yes. But I don't need all these other people in other companies. I love the fact that all these other people in other companies. Okay? I love the fact that I got all these other stars I can watch in other companies. MLW, NWA, TNA. The way Tony Khan decides to go and split Ring of Honor with AEW. All right. I like good wrestling. I like the build-up to the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is going to be fun this weekend. Both of them. Rebellion and Dynasty. And I will do post-shows for both. And all I'm saying is that, the social media crowd out there is delusion. It's fantasy land. They're all Monday quarterbacks, which I know that's not the same thing here. Tuesday night quarterbacking, whatever. Thursday night quarterbacking, whatever. They all think they know what booking should be done. They all feel like, they also have to pile on because some people will not have their own opinions. You're just going to follow somebody else's opinion. Go along to get along. I don't do that. Oh, God forbid somebody who's Twitch streamers on here or somebody that goes on YouTube says something that gets out of favor with other people in the comments. Those other people out there, if they get some negative comments, they lash back so hard. To the point it hurts. It hurts to see them actually responding back like you do. I want to say this. There's a lot of times I can't watch people doing their shows or listen to their content. But sometimes I will, catch some of their streams on X or Facebook or Instagram. You know why? Because I'm just like, I need to see what other people are saying anyway. Like part of me as a wrestling podcaster, I should see what other people are saying. I should get what the feedback is of the audience out there. Some of them, they might have a different thought process than I do. Listen, hell, I see some of the people that were on the show with me or have been, regular fans of the program. And I see what their comments are. They're indifferent to me. Fine. But I see some of those people out there that get really upset. Oh, this person's like just changed their way, this and that. Oh, you're changing about this. No. I'll tell you like this. There have been some that were supportive of AEW. As long as it fit their narrative and as long as they felt like things were going the way they wanted it to go. Let me tell you, 2 years ago, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson comes in, Andrade comes in, all the, Malachi Black, all these others, they come in here. Oh, they're so excited because all these former WWE stars, Vince was still in charge. Triple H was still kind of running things in NXT and really didn't have like the whole run through of the pencil until we got here, right? They all changed things up. And then I look and say, okay, well, you got all these stars coming over here. You got these great matches and all. Arthur Ashe Stadium. You got, All Out. And you got Full Gear and all these other things going on. And all these other matches we're getting. And, things kind of changed around. With Cody Rhodes. He moves over. And then you see some other stars decide, okay, we're going to make the switch over now. Most recently, Jade Cargill, right? Or, and some of the names that get picked up. But you have to understand now, too, the basic gimmicks, the lack of creating gimmicks that will create merchandise. Let's put it like that, too. I haven't even looked at the website yet in a long time, but I want to just take a look at something real quick. If I look at WWE Shop, right, from Fanatics, and who they decide to go ahead and promote the most on their site. Cody Rhodes is up first and foremost. And they got a lot of Cody Rhodes merchandise, right? If I look at who else they have of other superstars, Let's see what they got. I mean, sure, you can see other superstars in here and they got all their gear, but how many of them really have something that's like, that stands out and people are really buying into and really getting into? And ask yourself the question. Top sellers. I just want to take it like this. Let's go through the top sellers right now of everything. If I can. Let's just try t-shirts, for example, to start off. Top sellers right now. WrestleMania shirts with Damian Priest, CM Punk, the Boss, Final Boss Rock, right? CM Punk, and his black and white. The Yeet shirts. Cody Rhodes, Claim Your Kingdom. Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, another Rock, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, KO shirt, now in blue, a Mommy shirt for Rhea Ripley, LA Knight with a Yeah shirt, Roman Reigns levels above, a Seth Rollins shirt, more Bray Wyatt, a Jade Cargill shirt, who are they trying to sell the most of the merch? Bailey, we get one now, but she goes pretty down the list. You get merch in here, but look at the stars they have that are being pushed out for the most. Dom they got, right? Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso. And all these other stars that they have. They can't make merch off of them. They can't get them to sell merch. Like we're seeing the things that are most popular. Asuka, right? NWO. Think about it like that. LWO shirt. But Eddie Guerrero version of the shirt. And the thing is that where are the other stars that we're really going to be worrying about or be concerned about? That, you know, encompasses who are the stars that are being positioned the most. They can sell merch. They can sell arenas. A lot of those Triple H folks that they got right now that we regularly see, we don't see them. They're not up there at the top of the list. With TKO Group Holdings in charge. Another thing you're not even thinking about. We're already hearing about certain stars that might not be around where the contract's up. Drew McIntyre, Becky Lynch we heard about, right? Think about the fact that TKO Group Holdings, they're not going to do what Vince McMahon did. They're not going to feel like they want to pay certain stars. They'll be more adept as a corporation like they are to let stars go. And maybe Triple H won't be able to have the resources to be able to keep some of those stars on board or keep the roster as big as it is. I mean, has anybody thought about the fact that we might see some other stars go by the wayside? Like, nobody's talking about the fact that WrestleMania time, I don't know if we're going to get that rush of, like, talent going and being let go, like the NXT talent like we always get, or if we're going to get some main roster talent that will be cut as well. We don't know about the cuts yet. That could all happen after the draft. But what's going to happen there? Has anybody thought about that yet? Because that can very well happen. And that's going to upset some of those fans out here. The thing is, you have to think about down the line, everything is so happy and fun. And right now, oh, look, they're selling out. They're getting the ratings and they're doing so well. But it's so top heavy. With only a couple of stars that were the most important coming out of WrestleMania. 3 months from now, when we get the SummerSlam time, when we don't have Rock, and we don't have Roman Reigns, then who are going to be the ones that we're going to be seeing shirts sold for? Top sellers. What is that going to be like? You think all these title holders that we have right now are going to be, pushed up a little higher? Not a shirt for Gunther. I noticed right here, nothing for Gunther. I'm seeing all the mainstay stars that are all here in the first place. top 72 items here of shirts. A couple of LA Knights, Jey Uso, Bailey, a lot of that. And again, LA Knight all has, of these shirts that they have, it's yeah, and there's a shirt that says whose game is it, right? So in one comment that's being put here, Jim Ross actually talked about the development for LA Knight. And I don't know if Jim Ross really paid too much to, I'm sure he probably did pay attention to him because he was probably part of the talent recruitment process at that time, talent relations, when LA Knight came in before it in NXT and the other times before then. So on his podcast, JR and Conrad Thompson talked about WrestleMania XL. And they talked about LA Knight. And JR says this. LA Knight's one of the favorites of The Office. I haven't really bought into his persona. Not to say in a bad way. I haven't seen him do anything that I didn't like. I just got to feel it more. I got to do a little bit more character development to get me to buy into who this dude is and why I should give a shit. He's got a good future ahead, no doubt about that. And it says, not out of the realm of comprehension that Cody's next opponent can be a babyface, he also says as well. He also says that, quote, my goal would be to get the best matches you can of the ring. LA Knight can talk and he can take bumps. He can feed a comeback. The same as a lot of the guys. That's what you look for. Can you mechanically execute what is needed to be done? All the guys we talked about here today, they all can do that. Then he goes on to say that Knight can be in for a title shot in the next pay-per-view. He and AJ Styles both won triple threat matches on SmackDown. Styles and Knight will face each other this Friday for a chance to earn a shot against Cody Rhodes at Backlash. We got that coming up. And I said about LA Knight, they had a chance to give us character development. Okay, you didn't like, maximum top models. Fine. Maximum male models. All right. But the Eli Drake character was never fully fleshed out. And by the way, some of the things that he did as Eli Drake, they're not even here either. That takes some of that out. So what do you got left? What do you do next? They're able to get some merch on him and sell it. Okay, great. But what else? We need more things to happen with all these folks. With all these stars they have, they don't want to do gimmicks. Is it just because it's Vince? And that's it? Like, what else is there? Kevin Nash also coming into the new era of WWE. And by the way, he would be a bit biased because he was part of the clique. And I know that him and Triple H, they probably get along really great together. So Kevin Nash talks on his podcast. And Sean Oliver, his co-host, points out that they're showing wrestlers arriving at the arena after getting off their bus, similar to what you see in NBA and other sports. And that Triple H basically saying that this isn't Vince's company anymore, enjoy the show. And Nash says that it wasn't like Vince wasn't around when Paul but when Paul had that heart issue and everything else, Paul was like, by the time they were fucking diagnosing what was wrong with Paul, they were tearing apart NXT. 30 seconds into it, Vince and Bucktooth Kevin Dunn were saying, I got this. Nash says that as anybody who watched the free fucking show for the last several months on the road to WrestleMania realizes I've never seen anything like this before. The program is through the roof. He also said about Snoop Dogg in the Philadelphia street fight. I love Snoop's commentating. They beat the fuck out of Bobby Lashley with those kendo sticks. I was thinking to myself, like, man, does this just not feel fucking kosher to me? 3 white guys beating the fuck out of a black dude with kendo sticks. Oh, boy. He's not wrong by that. It actually is kind of interesting when he says that. Also, Jim Ross says that Gunther needs to be leveled up to the main event. And he talked to Steve Fall of WrestlingNews.co. Or actually, Gunther was told Steve Fall that he outgrew the IC title, eventually wanted to challenge for the world title. We did hear about that. And Jim Ross says that, yeah, I would love to see Cody defend the title against Gunther. I'm a big Gunther fan. His style is very basic, very fundamentally sound. He's a machine. He's physical. What he does is realistic. He tells great stories. And he praised Gunther's match with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. He says, I can't tell you if I saw a match that I like better, much better than Gunther and Sami Zayn on both nights. He's a great find. He's got himself in magnificent shape. I love his physicality. In the same respect, Sami Zayn played his role perfectly. And he also says the great thing about WWE for them right now is they built some depth. There's some possibilities for Cody's first world title opponent. We'll see where it goes. A lot of choices. You also wonder if Orton could be a heel or if the fans would cheer him no matter what he does. He says Randy can be whatever he wants to be. It's all a matter of presentation. Randy's established. He's over it. I'm a firm believer that under the right conditions, the right storytelling, and the right actions in the ring, this could be a moneymaker for him. The matches would be unbelievable. They could close the show in a star-studded way. Cody and Orton would be great. You can go that route. Cody and Gunther would be great. I don't know where Gunther's going to be landing. We got to see what happens with the draft. But you have a few names that you could put up against Cody Rhodes and build them up. And decide what you're going to do right now for Cody to have either LA Knight or AJ Styles to take on. I would imagine AJ Styles wins that match. And it'll be Cody and AJ. I don't see LA Knight in this part. Another title shot that he loses? Like AJ Styles can go ahead and take a loss here, for how long as he's been around, But he's always going to be a legitimate main event contender. You can always build him up for that. In the new era, language is not going to be an issue right now for the superstars. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer is reporting that things have changed since the company sent out a memo to talent, reminding them to keep their language PG weeks ago. And it was said that saying PG is also out the window now for top talent. It's unclear what the mandate will be like for the rest of the roster. Meltzer said and wrote, "We were told everything's up in the air as far as goes. There's a recognition that going farther this direction will draw a younger audience, as it did 25 years ago. But they also didn't want to be in a position where sponsors are squeamish, so it's a balancing act. But if Rock doesn't have 100% carte blanche to do what he wants, at least he has close to that." One of the other new rules that the new era has right now is that Tama Tonga, for instance, he's keeping his name. They're not changing it to a new name. And Julia, who's now joined NXT, she's going to be able to retain her name and make her debut at NXT Heatwave on July 7th. So there's that. Apparently, we're also learning that the Motor City Machine Guns, former respectively, Impact Wrestling World Champions and former X Division champions, they're both now heading over to AEW, it looks like. Bodyslam.net has reported that right now. They became free agents at the end of March, and they wrapped up with runs with TNA. So now let's go ahead and move along, and let's go and talk about the pay-per-views that are coming up, because, we should talk about, two big pay-per-views coming up this weekend. TNA has Rebellion, and AEW has Dynasty. So we'll start with first. First things first. Preview predictions right now for TNA. By the way, I've been watching TNA quite a bit and other things as well, because, by the way, Ruby Soho is pregnant, apparently. And it was announced during their AEW Rampage taping that she is pregnant. We're going to hear about that coming up. So let's talk about the pay-per-views that are coming up this weekend. Let's get into those. TNA Rebellion, they're going back to the Palms in Las Vegas once again. It looks great. And here's what we got. Moose will take on Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship. Something tells me Nick Nemeth's going to win. The Systems, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, will take on Speedball Mountain, Speedball, Mike Bailey, and Trent Seven. The Systems are the World Tag Team Champions. And I expect System to retain. TNA Knockouts World Title, Jordan Grace versus Steph DeLander, accompanied by Matt Cardona. And Jordan Grace will retain. Mustafa Ali will defend the X Division title against Jake Something. I will take Mustafa Ali. A Full Metal Mayhem match with Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian. I will take Eric Young on the win. Last Man Standing, Josh Alexander versus Alexander Hammerstone. I will take Hammerstone for that match. Joe Henry versus Rich Swann, accompanied by AJ Francis. I will take Joe Henry. The Countdown to TNA Rebellion, we got the TNA Knockouts Tag Team titles. Spitfires, Dana Luna and Jody Threat will take on the Gays. Rosemary and Havoc. And Spitfire, I guess, will retain. And also, there'll be a 6-man tag match. ABC and Leon Slater versus the Rascals and Myron Reed. I will take Rascals and Myron Reed. Myron Reed? He's the TNA. I didn't realize that yet. What am I missing? By the way, the reason I'm able to watch a little bit more is because I'm catching more now, having the chance to watch either on a tablet or through my phone, where I got a better internet connection in my house. So it's been easier to go and stream stuff. Much easier than before. So that's had me get a chance to go and do much more watching wrestling. I do it kind of as a second screen, but what can I say? So that's Rebellion. We're going to do that. We'll talk about that on Saturday night. And Sunday night, AEW Dynasty. St. Louis, Missouri. And I think they've done a great job of building the pay-per-view, regardless of what people want to say. No matter what, they've done a lot of work of building up. Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, AEW World Title. I will take Swerve Strickland for the win. Bryan Danielson against Will Ospreay. I'll take Ospreay to win. Julia Hart defending the TBS title against Willow Nightingale. I will take Willow to take the title. Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, Mark Briscoe against the House of Black. I will take House of Black to win. The AEW World Tag Team Championship Tournament Final Ladder Match. Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson against FTR's Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler. And I will take Young Bucks to win over FTR. I have no problem with what they did building up the storyline for that match. Everybody else is going to say something else otherwise. Fine. I'm not worried about it. I really am not. And for those of you fans that want to be upset about it, you be upset. You go on social media, you go on Twitch, you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, you go on YouTube, argue through your heart's content, but we know that you want to go ahead and just like side with somebody else and make sure you don't ruffle anybody else's feathers. There's nothing wrong with having a differing opinion. So I, King of Podcasts, will continue to have a differing opinion, but you can't call me a loyalist because I'm not. I don't pledge allegiance to any brand. I appreciate watching all of them. And I will have comments about all of them, no matter what. Just listen to my pay-per-view recaps. You'll find out for yourself. By the way, what I've also done here, you might see that for some people, if you want to go and catch any of my premium content, I'm going to start doing something where I picked up some other gear. So when I'm not in-house, when I'm not in my studio to record, and there might be things I want to talk about that are just kind of random, just some extras of whatever comes up that would be nice to be talked about on a timely basis, I'm going to start trying to do some smaller clips. And for those clips, if you want to just hear me have like an instant take on something, I'm not going to just randomly put them up on YouTube or wherever else or on a podcast. I'm going to put them in the premium section. And all I ask you to do is to donate $2 a month. I'll let you know about that down the line once it happens. But, you know, you can neither here nor there. Other matchups we got for AW Dynasty, Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa for the Women's World Title. I'll say Toni Storm's going to hold on to it. Hook will defend the FTW Championship against Chris Jericho. I'll take Hook to continue to hold on. You know what? I'm going to take Chris Jericho. I will take Chris Jericho to get the FTW title. The World Trios titles and the World Six-Man Tag Team Championships are on the line. Bullet Club Gold are the World Trios Champions. Acclaimed are the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Champions. So I guess all titles up for grabs. And I will take Bullet Club Gold to hold on to both. That's where I'm at. And then Kazuchika Okada versus Pac. I'll take Okada with a win. And the AEW International title, Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly. I will take Kyle O'Reilly. No, I will take Roderick Strong to retain. That's what I'm going to take. And that's the show for the night. So I hope you'll appreciate your old podcast buddy, King of Podcasts, to continue to just stick to my guns, stick with my opinion. Why am I going to listen to everybody else? And just, be allowed for other people to just go ahead and, push down and bully me to not say what I want to say. We all have a free platform out here. I'm just not going to be like, go along to get along. I'm not going to go ahead and be like the other sheep. I'm not going to go and get caught up in the smug of social media like I call it. So anyway, come back this weekend for the Wrestling Through podcast because wrestling needs us.